Hello, everybody, welcome back. Almost lost my pen again, Austin. I'm always losing my pen. You know this, but it took me a second. I found it. We're good to go. And we've got a really
you know what I
fun
just
one.
realized?
What's that?
Look at my background here. I messed something up. I don't have the right background. We're not coming in hot. But last week, we came in right away with what was... Oh, there we go. Look at this guy. Oh, he's matching. We're doing it right away, Alan. This is why I'm
Get in there.
I love it. I'm sorry to
Golly.
interrupt you.
No, it's fine. I'm glad that you interrupted me, mostly because you know me. I've got this ability to just go on and on and on and on. And, you know, the funny thing about it is we've casted so much together that it just hit me with the background conversation. This is your first CCL cast of the year, isn't it?
Second one of the year.
Okay.
It almost feels like the first one because I don't think I've done anything since week 1. So it's been like this long build-up, and I know we were talking about it last week where, like, Cruz and Seymour were like, Vicious is coming on. He's doing it. I was in bed. Not well, but now I'm here. It's gonna happen, so I'm really amped, man. You can feel it. The energy's just flowing right now. It's gonna be a good night.
Absolutely can feel it. It's actually, I'm glad that you put the caveat that you weren't just in bed. You were in bed unwell. Because if you were just in bed, we'd have to have a conversation after all this is done.
A much different tone right now.
It's gonna be a much different tone right now. But on the screen here, besides two good-looking men, I'm just gonna self-proclaim that. We've got two teams from Florida. This is going to be a big-time bragging rights matchup. Both schools have qualified already for playoffs. Seeding will be very important, though. So for the Florida State Seminoles going up against the Barry Bucs, really intense matchup. And I think the biggest thing is look at the head-to-head. You're going to see very similar stat lines across the board for both squads. And a lot of that is due part to the fact that they've lost to the same school so far. So, you know, there's really not much to say as far as litmus test is concerned because, honestly, the records are just about dead even.
That's exactly it, right? You take a look at it from top to bottom, you know, 16-3 up against 15-2. Another match does have to be played, I believe, for Barry as well. So we'll see how that one kind of ends up coming in here for them. But you hit on it. Like, this has been a very even stat line for as far as what we see on the screen. I think the one thing that you do maybe give the edge here for BU is the fact that they are 14-2 in S&D. So those might be one of those crucial game modes that you're looking at FSU to try to come through with. But other than that, like 10-2, 10-1 in the control here, Alan. Hard points just about neck and neck. I mean, it's really, you know, building up for what could be an incredible matchup, especially after the fact that you already brought up, like, listen, both have lost to Concord, both have lost to Penn State. So this means that we could get, you know, a really fun head-to-head for this one, you know, coming into it tonight.
And the other thing to kind of keep in mind, even though the technical number next to Florida State is a bigger one, their search and destroy has been a little problematic. A lot of game fives for this team. Now, granted, of course, they've won the majority of them. The only one they lost was versus Concord, as you had mentioned. But game 5 versus University of Tennessee Chattanooga, game 5 versus High Point. That is definitely something that you would not normally expect. But let's take a look at the rosters as we start to get ready for this series. The biggest thing about both these two teams, a lot of promise, I think, was established early, not just off of their ability as a team to get put together, but just individually. A lot of really promising players on both sides. Obviously, you and I have a lot of familiarity with Exile. Big time guy when it comes down to how much time he puts into the game, and Mad Truth has obviously been a big talking point for this team really since day one.
Yeah, that's kind of been the two real big standouts so far. When you look at players that have that ability to be able to take over a game or, you know, win this FSU esports squad, a couple of big matches, like you are looking, I feel like, at those two. The big one you brought up was Mad Truth. I've been very impressed with how he's been able to slay in a lot of his matches leading up towards this point. And that's something that you need, especially up against, you know, a team like BU where you can't really afford to give over any kind of leeway in the first couple of maps here. Obviously, we touched on the S&Ds, how important those are going to be. But coming out here, relying on Exile, Mad Truth to come and have a good start, I feel like could be some of those driving points for as far as being able to come away with a big match for the seeding.
I like it. Let's take a look at the other side. Of course, for a lot of us that are looking at Barry University, we remember back to that stomping they put onto Florida Gulf Coast on land. It's one of those is just like, why'd you even drive all the way out here? But Gyro playing with Indivent, Grime, and I apply pressure. Really, I mean, again, same things will occur here when it comes to talking points. I will say, though, that Indivent and Gyro, I'm going to keep saying Gyro like it's one of those European, like, you know, Greek little pita sandwiches. But for Gyro and Indivent, they've, I think, been the kind of the two that have popped off the page just based on that performance at, you know, land, quote unquote, and just what they've been able to do recently, and especially coming off of 2 straight 3-0s versus UTC and Shenandoah. Big time players for this Barry University squad.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with what some of these individuals have been able to do again, kind of leading up towards this point as well. And you kind of hit on a couple of key players like you did in the last time around that I'm also seeing if they can kind of stack up against the players that we just highlighted, because you're going to need that here again. So looking at Gyro as one of those players who might be able to come out here, kind of lead the charge. He's the team captain, and he's someone that I remember even chatting to at the beginning of the season, or as far as making sure that these guys do have a strong start coming in towards the season, which they've been able to do. But he wasn't sure exactly how the team was going to be able to formulate going in towards the rest of the season. I mean, going in towards playoffs, whether or not they could match kind of the top teams here in their group. So far, they've done a pretty good damn job of it, but have to do it here again, end the season strong right before going into playoffs. I feel like is exactly what every single team wants to do.
Yeah, and those head-to-head matchups versus Penn State and Concord kind of ended the way that you would expect. Penn State's looking unbelievable. Concord had one slip-up in their group stage here in the second cut, but that's really been about it. So as we take a look over this 5-map series, I think it'll be very difficult, to pick out particular advantages for either team's point of view, but we are getting a lot of Berlin and a lot of Tuscan, so we'll have a pretty even affair when it comes down to being able to evaluate the squads on, obviously, a very similar map style between those two in particular. And then Voodoo Control will split us down the middle for our map number 3. Headspace going into this first map, though, for you, Austin.
Yeah, I think right away, you bring a lot of trust into how your ARs are going to be able to dictate a lot of what happens. I think, watching over the Minnesota event, we got to see some teams that were, slowing down the first little bit in the first half of the hard point that didn't really have a lot of AR pressure. Doesn't allow your subs to be able to start going rogue, right? I think that's really a key factor when we talk about Berlin being one of those tricky maps. And I even think the majority of the teams in the game, period, whether that's the pro level, challengers, collegiate, are still trying to figure out how to play it the best possible way. And you can't really do one without the other, right? You can't really just have your subs kind of frying and running around without your ARs getting in the positions to be able to enable them, and vice versa. So it really is, I feel like, a team reliant map, and you can't really afford to have one person slacking. So this could be a really good start here for the FSU Esports guys that I feel like need to come away with a couple of these respawns just in case things get a little dicey heading in towards those search and destroys.
That's the exact call that I was going to go right back to, is if you're Florida State, I feel like you kind of have to take 2 of the first 3, just due to the fact that the search and destroy has been a little bit of an issue for you. You don't want to go into a map 5 and feel a little bit uneasy or uncomfortable. So I'm curious, just play style wise, identity wise, are we going to get a quick establishment of these ARs, allowing players like Exile, as you would expect for Florida State, to kind of just take over the map? And on the other side for Barry, I think one of their biggest problems when they were playing up against FGCU, not that there were many problems, again, that was a while ago, was they were kind of missing some numbers every now and again when players are making rotations. So I think it's going to be down to just control, not just over the entirety of the map, but as you're trying to focus on rotation, are you doing a good job of actually counting your numbers? So we'll find out. Berlin Hardpoint, map number 1, number 11, Florida State, number 14, Barry. A battle for what would essentially be, you would think, 3rd place in this Southeastern Division off the top cut. But also, like we had mentioned, this is the battle for Florida. Both teams beating up FGCU and Full Sail means that you are the last remaining Florida teams to duke it out. Should be a good one.
I like how you set that up, Alan. The last 2 Florida teams duking it out, coming away with what needs to be a win here, trying to get yourself the best possible seed heading into playoffs, and it's time to jump right in, as we're going to be kicking things off here with KCL, trying to see if they can battle out from the unfavored side, get themselves some kind of control around the point. And already, first kill comes through here, and have been able to find the first one. He's able to find the second. He still gets one back, but not really able to apply too much pressure. All of his teammates dropping around him.
It is important to note that it is, as you had mentioned in the feed there, Marski's and not I apply pressure, so I don't know if that's a one-for-one there. I know there have been questions about, is there going to be a substitute in the mix? So there's definitely something to be said about this 4-man roster compared to what we initially had expected. But so far, so good. I mean, you've stopped pretty much all the pinch play from happening initially. You got 24 seconds, and you kind of take a look down towards the minimap. It is Barry in that shade of red, and they're already kind of giving up the scrap in order to put numbers on rotation as they look to open up the second hard point. This is great. You've got good surrounding hits, not just through warehouse where you're going to control spawns, but also players watching mid-map to make sure the exit from Florida State is contested from the first hill.
All right, let's see if they can win some of these initial engagements. KCL's going to be on this 4-0 spree, but does get shut down. Marski's able to cut down the spree. No glide bomb coming into effect. But look at the spawns in the back. Things going to be a little bit difficult to try to break through. However, those are a great couple of opening kills. And they turn it into hardpoint time and a break. That's the question. Exile finds one more, able to line up a second and a teammate. Job's being done. They're going to be able to break through, and it is a little passive to back all the way up here, but they are at least getting some hill time with about 30 seconds left on P2.
This just tells me that there is a lot of trust that Mad Truth can hold on to this position for the finessing last 20 seconds. If you're already going on rotation with 40 seconds left on P2, there's so much trust here that Mad Truth is going to hang. And boy, has he. 4 in a row for him, slides across, has an opportunity for Indivit and takes him down cleanly. Okay, that's why you let one guy sit in the hard point for 35 plus seconds apparently. That'll be a lead swap for a small time in favor of Barry for the scrap that they eventually get into, but Florida State are just reaping the reward of that trust factor, allowing them to open the third easily.
Are they ever? I mean, a situation I did not think they were going to get the majority of the time in, and now they have a chance to really spoil this rotation. Brave Cannon, slow start at 0-5, but this is his chance to heat up, break into the point, try to get some time back. So far, 50-50 for as far as what we do see. One last attempt coming through right through the middle, rather, and Mad Truth is going to be able to shut that down. So, looking good so far on the initial hold. Spawns in the back right now, however, for FSU Esports. Can they break through? Can they find this remaining scrap time? It's not looking like it's going to happen now, and they are holding out here for as long as they can, and that is fine, as they can now start to look for a rotation.
Yeah, this is, again, everything as far as tempo and pace is concerned, Florida State's getting away with the playbook that they want. You're getting in, you're finding their opening rotation, you're battling for the first 40 seconds, and you're just kind of giving away the back scrap time, which, to be fair, you know, for Barry, you're happy to have it because you've been able to turn this and keep this at an even game, largely due to the fact that it's been 30-30 splits on these hills. But I think as far as who's establishing tempo that they want, Florida State is kind of on top. It just comes down to knowing when exactly we are hitting those rotations. Because at the moment, they are giving away a little bit too much for free, but these first 30 seconds of every hard point so far have been so good for Florida State.
Let's see if this will continue here for them. So far, the initial looking good for Barry. From behind, big one-on-one gun battle, and Brave Cannon finds him. This was after the 0-5 start. He has heated up. But hill time now starting to go over to Florida State as they're trying to get that lead right back. 20 seconds going to remain on this point. Spawn's good in the back right now for Barry University, and they're going to be good for as far as the hill time. Mad Truth this year, 11-5. One of those key players we already highlighted, making some of the big differences on the map as he finds another battle, and now they can start to battle inside of train station and look at new.
Key moment right here for Barry. You have to be able to lock down this exit. And the problem about it is, as I had mentioned, this is something that occurred every so often versus FGCU. They miss a player in the back. And look what it does to the spawns. Florida State is going to get the side that they want. However, as far as Barry is concerned, you still got high ground control. So the ability to play for time here on 5 is definitely available for you. But you've got to turn this hill pressure into pressure on rotation as well. You can't just be happy sitting in the middle of the map because things like this will happen. Florida State now making their play forward. Good denial from Barry, but still, there is a hurdle that has to come through here where Barry needs to get through this setup.
Oh, I like that play there from Mad Truth, but he's not able to really translate it into any kills. So now it is going to start to be a battle for new, but Exile ripping heads off of the old hill. Now Marski's a lot of pressure on him to try to make an individual play, and he finds that first battle, shuts down Exile. But more work needs to be done, and he's unable to find it. Has to rely on his teammates now to pick up that slack. A lot of this hill time just kind of going back and forth. A 4-point differential. Make it 3 going in towards the new point. Grime with a big battle on the outside, and Mad Truth finds another 17-7 as he is cutting down players on the rotation.
But Florida State doesn't know that the spawns have flipped. Barry has gotten around the backside of Crane. They're going to have lobby-sided spawns coming forward, and Marski just goes underneath the window. That'll allow an opportunity to contest the players inside the hill. But now you've got Florida State Seminoles coming in very quickly from train station to reinforce, try to bunker down this hard point. Even exchange of kills so far doesn't actually turn the color of the hard point at the moment. This has been great for Florida State from the front. It was a completely unexpected flip, but the Seminoles are dealing with it beautifully.
Yes, they are. And they can continue to hold this and force the late rotation. The kills are good inside the hard point. And Florida State starting to run away with a bit of the lead. The biggest one we've seen so far. Over 40 points. And Mad Truth is already here in the new point. Look at how slow Florida State are on the rotation. They're still at the back of P3. No presence inside the hard point. They're all going to wait for one another. But Mad Truth, he again could spoil the whole play as he's looking for that first one, but is denied.
Yeah, this is, again, the first time that we've seen Barry Well, to be fair, they've kind of conceded the old time in order to play for rotation here, but this is the first time we've really seen them lock down and get into position for a full setup. You have to hold it, though. It's starting to get to the critical point of the game where if you get broken, this game could be blown wide open, and that very well may just be occurring right here with 3 kills coming out for Florida State. Indivent, the last player left, sees the player try to burst down the walls, waiting for a little bit of help, then the challenge comes out, but has to small circles around his way through the hill because he lost track of the Florida State members that were contesting. But with the help, there will be a break and an opportunity to fight for this back 20 seconds, and a beautiful gunfight there for Gyro as he's able to take down KCL to confirm the scrap.
Always a chaotic kill, but now it's a chaotic rotation. Marskis finds one. Will he read the second? He will, but can't win the battle, and that one's going to sting a little bit. Brave Cannon now gets to fan out right back into his corner we saw in the first rotation. So the setup looking fairly decent at the moment, but are they going to be able to hold on to it? Grime off screen is just ripping apart all of the defenders around the hard point, and 5 seconds in, they've already been able to find an opening inside of the hard point. Indivent is here, finds that first one, and that is almost too easy, but now they have to try and hold.
Every kill is a big kill, though. The spawns are currently blocked, and as Gyro falls on the top side of the minimap, Florida State should spawn in on the top left side of your map. And that indeed kind of happens. That's close enough to it. And as the full wipe from the front does come through to follow, all of a sudden you've got Florida State once again in a demanding and controlling position. 180 to 140, the current tally. And Barry needs to find a way to contest this. You cannot allow this 20 seconds to go for free, but Brave Cannon holds his position inside of fire. That's an easy double. KCL picking things up from the anchor position backside spawn, and that could possibly be the Seminoles over the 200-point threshold as they're giving up spawns, looking to rotate to 4.
Oh, yeah, unfortunate spawn there for Indivent, who's going to also have his teammate spawn right there with him. So this is going to delay things quite a bit. A lot of pressure on this hill. You can almost put it away if you're Florida State at that 200-point mark. So if you can even just keep the hill neutral, this is perfect for you. Can they work into the back? That's the question. Gyro able to find that first one, and now the setup looking fairly decent again for Florida State.
It's just the same things that we had mentioned from the beginning of this map, really through the first 3 hard points. You remember back to Exile, taking the early rotation off of P2 to get to the 3rd. That significant change in tempo has been dominant from start to finish, where Barry has not been able to match up against how quickly Florida State wants to play for the next hard point. They've only had, what, 1 total setup so far this game, and even that wasn't all that convincing. So Barry absolutely backs up against the wall. And for the Buccaneers, at least you're in to try to contest this time at P4. But really, for me, it has to be what's coming up here on 5. And that has to be not just 5, but also 1 and likely 2 behind that if you want to have a chance to even get this game back to level.
So much work to be done, and you can't really let too much of this P5 time go neutral either. So trying to keep some presence around the point and on the point. Well, a lot to check off the list here as KCL is able to find Grime. Now some time at least going over to Barry University. Marskis needs to find this one, and he does. So big kill. Now tries to fan out through the back with the submachine gun. I like the positioning. We'll be able to at least get a little bit of space around the hard point for his teammate to move back through. But Florida State, they are now just going to start to look at this rotation, make sure they have themselves in a good position where even if you aren't getting time here, we're going to win these battles for new. And Exile doing a great job of it on 4 in a row now, looking for the 5th.
It's really hard to put my finger on, like, how exactly is Barry getting beat up this badly? Because you look at the scoreboard, overall KDs have been pretty even. It's just Florida State, I've been saying it a bunch, I feel like a broken record, but their tempo around the map is just superior. I don't want to say it's faster. I don't want to say it's really anything besides just what the Seminoles have established, which is we're going to really put pressure on you on rotation, and we're going to do it at a time that you don't expect. So I think it's just the convincing nature of how they've won these hard points on the initial break attempts. It's turning into confidence to finesse the scrap time, turning into confidence to send extra numbers to play for rotation, and Florida State just in control, driving seat from start to finish, only really giving away 2 hard point initial setups pretty much from the get-go. Really an unbelievable display from Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, and this one was pretty neck and neck going into the second rotation as well. It was like a 4-point differential. You can start to see them just slowly turn up here. Massive game also from Matt Charuth, one of the players that we obviously highlighted on this Florida State roster. 32 and 18, putting up the big numbers here for us, Alan. And when you're putting up, 32 kills and you're only dying 18 times, like that's typically going to translate to a lot of free hardpoint time. And we saw a ton of it there on 2 minutes of it. There you go, right on that second rotation. It really came together.
It really is, when we try to evaluate teams, especially for you and I, we spent so much time watching challengers and things like that. You look for quick capitalization off of advantages. And
Absolutely.
so many times in the early frames of this hard point, talking about the second hill and the third hill in particular, you get a convincing battle over that quote-unquote like contest 20 seconds where you're kind of 50-50 battling it out in like, the 40 to 20 second mark as the hill timer is going down. If you convincingly win those battles, you already have to be making the next step. You don't just think about, what do we do here now? You just have to already be making it. And
Sure.
I think the biggest display of that was off of Exile coming in, helping get the full wipe on Maelstrom the first time we were at P2, and then immediately just run back to P3. There's like 38 seconds left in the hard point, and my dude's already making a rotation happen with so much trust that, hey, with an AR, I'll watch your outer street and your front office doors towards the B bomb site. You just worry about your windows, Mad Truth. And he turned that into a 5-1 start overall. So that trust, that finesse, is really kind of a next level thing comparatively to what Barry was doing, which was arguably just trying to stay in it. And even though the first 3 hard points only gave us about a gap of 15 points at most, just that play style, that tempo, that identity that we're getting from Florida State was never really contested. So even though it was kind of a 50-50 score, the control of the map was heavily in favor of Florida State. Like if there was a time of possession kind of statistic where it's like winning on rotational areas, winning spawns, Florida State would have dominated. Like 90% of the time they were in the right position.
Absolutely. And I mean, you look back through a lot of the score lines for as far as what we see here, and like not only is Mad Truth putting up 32 kills, but 27 of those are untraded, man. Like
fair.
Someone's got to trade the guy in the map. And whether that means, moving together a little bit better in a more cohesive structure, whatever it might be, you have to make sure that you're trading this man out, especially as we go into some more of these respawns here throughout the rest of the series. But I mean, 2 minutes of hill time, 27 untraded kills, 32 and 18. Not much more you can ask of. What is it in basketball? Is it a triple-double, Alan? Is that the equivalent of a triple-double?
Yep, that's
got to be a triple-double there, right?
Yeah, that's got to be the COD equivalent for sure. I like that. You watch a lot of basketball last night? I didn't think you were a big Shooty Hoops fan.
I'm not a massive Shooty Hoops fan, but when I usually watch the Raptors here and there. We only got one Canadian basketball team, so you gotta kind of root for them, or else even Canadian, like even a supporter at that point. You're not.
I'll take your word for it. Berlin search and destroy up though for map number 2. And this is where the headache has been for Florida State, is in map 2s. A lot of search and destroy losses, but only map 2 really has been their biggest loss. I think they've got one map 5 loss on the season, and that was against Concord. So everything else has been a map 2 loss as far as their search is concerned. I think they had 6 total search losses on the year so far. So this is where we really need to see the Seminoles really step up their game. And, as much as they were able to dominate map control on the Berlin hardpoint, can you do that in a single life here? Because I want to say, just kind of remembering back to watching the Seminole team play in the past, they're trying to establish the same control, but you kind of forget that, I don't have a respawn here. So it's a little bit over aggressive in certain areas that would be labeled as hotspots. So I'm hoping that they've got something a little bit more planned for trying to take that map control, but to do it a little bit more strategically, a little bit safer.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also feel like at the end of the season, right, like I know it's an important matchup for as far as seeding, but coming out here and trying to implement something a little bit different, I feel like could also be big going into playoffs, right? Like seeing exactly, okay, like maybe this hasn't been our strongest game mode, but how can we make it stronger? What can we do to, to try to elevate our gameplay when it comes down to the search and destroys? Because, we've heard it a million times in the scene, how important search and destroys are when you're looking for a championship, and being able to put yourself, a 2-0 up heading into a control, putting more pressure on your opponents going into those best of 5 series where, they can be really tough and obviously get more and more difficult as you go through playoffs. Much more important here. So I would love to see, this Florida State University squad come out here, potentially try some creative plays. Don't always commit to the A play as soon as you throw your nades and stuns. Look to use those rotations. Look to watch those crosses. A lot of those things we've seen develop throughout Search and Destroy, specifically on Berlin, where you can really kind of make the defensive team, put them in really difficult situations where, are they rotating? Do we have to stack more members here? Force them to make those adaptations so that you can get a little bit more creative, make some of those plays on the map here. That's what I want to see. And, we'll see if they can implement it as we're loading in the map number 2 here, Alan.
Yeah, I like that. I think just kind of flexing your variety to create doubt. I think that's the biggest way of maybe kind of, turning your beauty and your poetry that you just labeled out into a title. So we'll see. And I think it's just, can you establish that early? Like, can you get into the heads
it,
of Barry
right?
once again? Because you have to feel like after that hard point came through and you're sitting there like, dudes, like, we lost another rotation. Like, I feel like you're going to come out kind of on your heels a little bit. So we'll see. It'll be Barry now in the white and red, Florida State in their maroon and gold, and it's going to be a pretty elongated look over towards B. Trying to play for dockside control. Nades will be tossed by end of it. Nothing's going to get checked there because the defenders of KCL and Exile are largely just waiting to see if they can catch anyone on the cross.
It's a very patient play, seeing if they can get that pick. As soon as they get this first blood, the call's probably made to go and drop this bomb down at B. But you can take a look at player 3 right now on the mini-map. Marsky is going to have a lot of an important role. Just got to watch this flank. But as soon as I said it, you find that first kill, right? That means that it is go time. Drop this bomb, and it's going to have to be a retake now for the side of FSU in a 3v4.
I will say, though, no one's watching this cross out of fire defensively now for Barry on this post-plant setup. There's an opportunity to come right out of mailroom and overwhelm in this position. KCL gets on. Taking down Grime has actually allowed Florida State to work the middle of the map and just essentially deny Marsky's altogether. So now Gyro forced to make a play. Bomb being defused. Gyro doesn't have an angle at it. This is going to be a free defuse from Brave Cannon. And Barry just sets up a post plant too far forward.
Honestly, I think it is way too far forward, but just how lightning fast that decision-making was to come through here on the immediate retake was incredible because like you had highlighted there, Alan, Marsky's, he's responsible for watching that flank, but no one's flanking, so he decides to come through for a late pinch, try to come behind the play, but because the play is so fast on the retake, he is completely nullified, not even a part of that round whatsoever, and FSU more or less steal that round out from under Barry here. Incredible round coming in, but now what are they going to be able to do on the attack? It looks like the same idea, trying to work around B, and well, you're going to spot that player out. Exile doesn't miss a bullet as he draws first blood.
That is so good. And you do use initial nades, by the way, for Florida State to break down these doors to make KCL's life a little bit easier on entry. Wait a second. Look at Brave Cannon. He's flanked all the way around the A site. Bomb does get planted, so now you've got the opportunity for the Seminoles to set up your post plant in two different directions. You can play safely off of Brave Cannon, or you can play deep side over through the backside of Warehouse, and, well, why not a little bit of both? Grime left for what would have to be a 1v3 in technicality, playing from the wrong side of the bomb. And as he makes his way in, he actually catches KCL in the middle of the window. This is going to create some doubt. Brave Cannon has to check. He's not in a position to watch this bomb plant safely. And Grime comes and chows him outside on the docks. A beautiful gunfight win and give him the 1v3 for the responding round.
Man, not easy to pull off these 1v3 clutches with a sub, you know, in this area with all the AR presence that you typically see. But I want to say that they kind of gave that one to him a little bit, right? Where you're kind of just sitting in the window. You're more or less a free kill if someone's sliding around that corner quite quickly at you. Unless you find an immediate snap, it's not going to happen. I do like the idea of the round where Brave Cannon's hitting a much faster flank, so he is a part of the play. But unfortunately, you got 1v3'd, and Grimes says, well, hold that, as we're going to make sure we get ourselves an early round on the board, tying us up early here at one apiece.
That's so good for the confidence if you're the Buccaneers. So good for the confidence. Marsky's watching the cross towards A, but with a delayed bomb pickup, Grime is not going to be able to really do much with that information. Copy-paste setup, by the way, here for Barry. Problem is, Florida State have adjusted their nades. That'll be good for first blood. But Marsky's presence through mid has now created some problems here for the defense of the Seminoles. They're so worried about getting this isolated kill in the Marskys, they're going to give it the bomb plant for free here, Austin.
That's right. They're going to give it up for free, and you can see they're not going to be as fast as they were at that docks area around B. So they're going to do a little searching. They might be able to find him, and they do. So they now know that the flank should be safe. The remaining two players, of course, going to be unknown, as they're going to have to start to go searching. They got a good 27 seconds to do it, and they're going to have to go quick.
And you would thought for a moment there that Marsky's did enough to make sure there was no actual play off the flank. But here comes KCL quickly from the back. Gyro's waiting in a corner. He was trying to execute on some trigger discipline, so now it's just down to Grime. Can he clutch again? This would not be another 1v3, but he's really just trying to use the clock as his ally, and he does kill off enough time. Getting the second kill was all he needed. And how about it? Mad Truth trying to find the water. Made himself a bit dizzy just as much as Grime just did in the last two rounds.
Oh, man, these rounds, I mean, they've been something special out of Grime. He is the last one left alive, and now from here on out, when Grimes the last one left alive, I'm holding hands with my teammate. I'm like, Grimes alive? You're like calling it out in the team comms? So like, yeah, it's a 1v2 versus Grimes. You're like, all right, get with me right now. Trade this guy out. Do not allow him to get these free isolated kills, because you look back in these last couple of rounds, which are incredible clutch plays that are coming through, but they're the fact that just about every single challenge is isolated. You're giving him the 1v1. You're giving him this opportunity to be able to clutch out on these rounds, and now it's happened twice. Can't happen anymore. As we head into the round number 4, Florida State desperately looking to try to get back on the board. Grime has all the confidence in the world. He's busting down doors, running at his opponents, looking for that next kill, and he doesn't see him. He doesn't see him. He takes the long-range shots, and Brave Cannon will find him.
However, this should be enough information for Grime that those opening nades from Florida State is a fake. They were not at all committed to going towards B. Once you get a read that players are deep towards warehouse, and you hopefully at least got the information that someone was mid-map, you have to know that this bomb is designated to go towards A. And the defense is starting to rotate to deal with this, but it's a 3v4. The problem is Mad Truth has controlled fire. He even sees Indivent down low. A couple of shots from the side. The app pre-fires him, no problem there. And now once again, it's down to a 1v3 clutch, but this time it's Marski's at the helm.
How about the sub coming in here, trying to see if he can pull off some kind of a miracle 1v3 again. 2 more players to cut through with about 30 seconds left. Has the AR and the sub. He's going to take the long route through train station, and this might be a little too long with the amount of time on the clock here to really make this happen. Both players, of course, going to be on the opposite side of the map. Could catch the one, trying to battle back through secret, but Marski's not going to be ready for it. So low on time, and this one's not looking doable.
No, not at all. He would have to stick it right here, and, well, Brave Cannon is not going to let that happen. Yeah, it's kind of a... Really, all 4 of these rounds that we've had so far have been kind of a comedy of errors, in a way. Like, small things being missed. In this round, it's the fact that Grime gets through, has a perfect read, technically speaking, off that breakoff, to deny this 2-2 split where Florida State's trying to bait the defense to think that the Seminoles are going B. But the problem is, he doesn't see the player mid, takes long-range shots at Exile, which doesn't give convincing enough information, and then because all the defenders were still leaning B, never really a chance to get any sort of a defense to stop that plan over towards the A site. So, a decent effort. NT's in the chat, but now we get Barry's first look over towards A. No set nades towards B, and you can see the Seminoles are happy to say, okay, well, if you're not going to throw anything at us, we're just going to go ahead and run through mid-map, and Brave Cannon has read that at least a member is playing deep side of train station, but the bomb is being forced down. This is going to be successful as far as a plant is concerned. It just comes down to, can you set up and hold your post plant if you're Barry?
Yeah, a lot of stuns and nades should also be available here on this post plant setup. Mad Truth takes that first challenge, and Marski's shuts the first one down. Brave Cannon trying to get one back here as it's a 4v3, 30 seconds left to try to make this retake happen. Right through the window, we switch off, and Indivent is able to find that first one in from behind. XL trying to wait for the trigger discipline. He finds the first one, but now it's a 1v4 in technical, but it's not going to happen. They're going to be able to finish him off, and the Barry Bucs coming away with a very clean offensive round.
I love that commitment call from Barry, by the way. That's the first time either of our 2 teams have shown us a full flood towards A. If you know you're not throwing nades at all to deter the defense towards the B site, you have to play for an early plant. You don't have the luxury of sitting there and just kind of waiting things out. So good commitment for the Bucs to get on the site, get the bomb planted, hold your post plant kind of closer to the chest than I think you would have liked inside a train station, but at least you could deal knowing that there's potential flanks early. So really good read from the Buccaneers. And how about this? Florida State's going to give their first go at least a full flood initially towards A. Exile watch in the middle of the map. And this is the same route for Grime, by the way. Through secret, immediately tries to cut bottom train, but this time he runs into 3 waiting Seminoles. Easy first blood for Florida State.
And now you got to take a look at, okay, what are the defensive members going to try to do? Because they're going to have to know for sure. Bomb's going down, and they do actually pull off of it there for a quick second. So KCL should still be able to drop this. And while you have a split across the map, they're going to push out through the front. Look at the overwhelming pressure there. Gyro has no shot, no chance. Now into a 2v4 here for the Barry Bucs.
Yeah, it's that. So you jump off the bomb for a moment. We'll see if Marski's can pull this 1v4 off. I do not imagine he's even going to get out fire here. But opportunity to reset. Needs to get the regen off, and, well, there's not enough time anymore. No. So Florida State pulls themselves off the initial plant, and I could, with 100% confidence, tell you the reason why was because somebody set this bomb for us to get the post plant through lobby. So we could just put all 4 members through fire in towards lobby, and we could still watch the bomb from the courtyard side, which is exactly what we see right there. You put it out into the open. You don't put it towards the window side, where then you could all of a sudden get retaken from the back and then not have the bomb in your line of sight. You get off, you set up the bomb exactly where you want to get that set for your post plant. It's a beautiful execution and a really cool kind of evident way of seeing how that changes depending on where you feel like you've got the most amount of favor on the attacking hit. Really cool setup.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also goes to show just how important that AR player in the back of lobby or P3 is. And you almost do need to kind of hold an aggressive angle so that they're unable to do that without you knowing of it. Losing that first member there really costed them. And now 3-3. Very back and forth affair here through the search and destroy. Barry Bucs definitely feeling a lot of the pressure here. And, well, that's why first couple kills come in. Will be successful 4v2 right away. Bomb is down and not in a great spot.
No, not at all. And this is just kind of aggression meets aggression this round. 3 SMGs in hand for Barry, but the 2 defenders at A are also rocking MP40s, so they're trying to set up an aggressive defense for probably a quick retake if they feel like the A bomb site's under pressure. So it's kind of just a blind counter round, and I think that's just kind of a good adjustment as well. If you consider the last time that Florida State was on defense, they did not have the ability to contest A early because they were trying to play through the middle of the map. So this time you change your weapon loadout, you put an extra member with a sub over towards A, and you say, if Barry's going to hit us aggressively again at A, we've got the weapon loadout and the setup to deal with it, and boy, did they.
Certainly did. Florida State University, they're coming out here, bringing some flair in the search and destroy, and I like this adaptation. It's been about the A hits time and time again, but all these nades should certainly signal that the play is unfolding around B, but they haven't committed. That's the thing. They can still come back to A because of where player 5 is right now. Matchew's been watching it, but aggressive push through now. They'd have been able to find the first one. Exile gets the immediate trade, and Brave Cannon catches Grime on sprint yet again, making sure that Florida State hold on to the numbers.
Yeah, I think we could probably label this play for Florida State as the catching Grime play, because that whole setup with Mad Truth still waiting over towards Train Yard is to see if Grime is going to continue to hit us through secret, let's just get the free kill on him. It comes at a cost this time, but they still get what they came for. You get the trade on the player at Indivent who's trying to push through Warehouse, and you catch Grime on his aggressive route through secret. So now you can rotate back over to A, get the plant off for free with numbers, wait for Mad Truth just to kind of lock on the flank, and this time the post plant will be towards train station. So a lot of work to be done here for Gyro and Marskis. I believe this is an AR SMG setup for each of them. And it looks like they're going to opt to try to retake this from the front. Difficult pretense here as far as actually getting the successful retake off, especially considering that Exile's watching this story.
1v3, 24 seconds. Gonna have to shoot and shoot quick, and it's not gonna happen. Very disciplined post plant setup this time around, and I mean, I'm really loving just a lot of the play that's coming through for FSU right now, Alan. Like, they are just showing us aggressive rounds, and then they're mixing it up with a lot of patience. Whoa, they're nading, stunning us out by B hard. That's going to draw resources over, and as soon as they start drawing players over, that's when you pull up the iron sight, you pre-aim, you wait for the challenges, and they've more or less just been coming to them. Like, that's all also off the back end of a first blood that did not go their way because they went for the aggressive push through, but it's immediately traded, then immediately read through the middle of the map here. And now FSU, they are on map point. They can put it all away here on this defense.
And how about this? First time we'll see the Seminoles kind of 3-man hit towards B. This is going to get KCL into the bomb site, and he's got support off of his teammates watching the cross. But careful, the counter nades that come through actually take away his safety blanket as Exile's dropped. And on 5, Brave Cannon doesn't want to risk the potential of losing out on his streaks, but KCL may not need any help. Tries to go to the beatdown, but does eventually get overwhelmed. Numbers advantage for Barry turns into a full-on elimination. A nice adjustment from Barry overall, and a lot of that is just due to the fact of, hey, you get the nade kill, you got to read that you push the other back, let's hit with numbers, and if anyone's still on the B site, we'll just out-trade him.
Yeah, a lot more coordinated this time around. Like, that's kind of been the big factor. We look at a lot of the deaths that have come through so far on this map here, for the side of Barry University. A lot of them have been isolated, but this one is a lot more together. No one's going for any of these late flank plays. You know what I mean? They're doing everything on the site, making sure they're playing off one another. It's something that's certainly been missing so far in their play style. So 5-4, game is not done yet. Barry Bucs seeing if they might be able to bring this one back. Nate's coming through here for Florida State. This time they don't have someone watching the push through by A immediately. So there could be an opportunity to play for a late flank, but rotating back could be a little bit more difficult. A lot more space you're going to have to clear, and there is still a player alive on B right now. So defensive setup looking very strong right now for the Barry Bucs.
Gyro's not going to overchow this time. Oh, the stun comes through. He does want to take Mad Truth off this tank. And he's successful. That's a success right there. Grime now on the way through tries to recontest Mail, but he gets caught. And so now all of a sudden, you can't play aggressively on A. You have to play for a retake here, in my mind. Although, Marskis and Gyro are going to commit. And if you win this gunfight at Staircase, maybe you win the timing. But now it's just down to the individuals. Indivent giving up B, looking to rotate back through mid, but really it's all on Marskis. He's got to go 1 for 2, and he will find nothing. All of it now on to Infinite. 1v4, maybe an opportunity to find one for free planning, but KCL there to help. And it's the Seminoles to do what has been a little elusive for them against these top cut teams, which is win map number 2. But I think we could use the same word that we did for the hard point to classify this search. Florida State is playing off the initiative way more often than Barry was.
Absolutely. Like, just reading, what Grime was doing. Grime was huge in the first couple of rounds. I mean, he was the reason that they were even on the board right away, right? The 1v3 immediately followed by, the 1v2, making sure the bomb defuse does not come in. And then all of a sudden, your player that's winning your rounds is all of a sudden getting picked off, even after your team gets that first blood. And it almost makes it too easy for Florida State at that point in time, where they're just like, listen, guys, we just have to sit back and wait on our offensive rounds, and they're going to bring the kills to us, which makes it very easy then to use your numbers to continue to rotate back to the other bomb site, which is something they were doing beautifully, multiple times in their offensive rounds, making sure they're not being very predictable, just constantly moving the defensive pieces around the map, spreading them very thin, and you win those isolated gunfights like they continue to do. You're going to break open those sites. You're going to get that bomb down. So very well played here with the 6-4 victory.
We're on the same wavelength today, partner, because you used moving the defensive pieces. I was about to say that the chess game of this search and destroy was Florida State on the offensive the entire way through. Even when they were playing from the defensive side of the bomb, they were still aggressively making the adjustments to force Barry to have to respond. Good stuff in the mix. We take a look back over the replays. And the thing about it, and I know this is a 6-4, and I think when you see that on the scoreboard at the very end of the map, you think, oh, round 10 affair, this was a close search and destroy. But right. I'm going to say the exact same things that I had said about the hard point when it was about a 10-point game. Florida State was making the correct moves every single round, maybe save 2 of them, where Barry was kind of taking them a little bit off guard. But even in the rounds where Florida State got a little bit caught, that 1v3, for instance, a couple of plays through middle map that they kind of lost a number here or there, I still feel like the Seminoles were the team that really kind of set the tone of how this search and destroy was going to be played from start to finish.
Did they ever hear? A lot of players coming alive. Isn't just the Mad Truth show this time around. Everyone was involved, throughout every single round here. And very solid across the board. Good 1,100 damage, though, from Brave Cannon. He was doing a little bit of everything. He was getting a little aggressive in some of those late flanks, while also, holding the line here with his teammates, making sure no push-throughs were coming in here. So multiple roles being played, and everyone really stepping up to the plate. And immediately, you take a look at Grimes, who had that really hot start, right, Alan, who was like 5-2, 5-3, really slowed down as one of the key players here for the Barry Bucs that just was unable to continue to catch that fire here throughout the rest of that map. And, because of it, everyone else also kind of faltered here and there. But got to give a lot of credit to Marskis. Sub coming in here, holding his own right now, 8-6, doing what he possibly can, just not enough to get them the map win. And now we have a 2-0 lead right now for Florida State University. Not what I expected, but definitely showing us that they have done some work in Search and Destroy.
Absolutely the case. So with that 2-0 count, that's the end of our Berlins. We've got Gavudu control for map number 3, and then the reverse sweep would have to come by way of a map 4 and map 5 on Tuscan for Barry University. But at the moment, it's the Seminoles leading the charge. We'll step away for a quick break. We'll come back. Map 3, right after this.
Last minute, bring it back.
More from Georgia Southern and Clemson you can find on twitch.tv/collegecodbravo. Pretty fun affair there. However, we've got a battle of Florida. Florida State, it's been interesting because they weren't initially in the same grouping as all of the other Floridian teams because of their more northern geographical positioning. God, these are words. I feel like I'm taking the SAT right now.
Yeah, no
You got now an opportunity for Florida State to dominate the conversation around Florida as they've beaten every other school in the state, save just Barry. However, so far, so good. I think the biggest thing we could say is that the Seminoles have been very proactive in both the maps we've seen so far, and maybe no better map to continue that trend than the Gavudu control that we've got here for the third Austin.
That's right. Here we go, right? Florida State, they've been outslaying, they've been outperforming, they've been adjusting on the fly here. At least you get a bit of a reprieve coming in towards this matchup to kind of talk over what's been happening. And to be fair, they do have Marskis in here. That is one of the subs. So they could be trying to talk over, okay, what everyone's job should be coming into the Gavutu. But it's definitely looking like it's going to be a challenge with the way that Florida State University are coming out here and just slaying and frying on the day and coming into a match that you have to win and then have to go into a Tuscan Hardpoint and Tuscan Search and Destroy. Obviously, a lot on their plate, but it starts here. You can have a good start on a Gavutu and just kind of slay out your opponents, put them in a bit of a spawn trap. That's kind of how you build some of that confidence back in, right? That's kind of the start you almost want to come out with. Not necessarily necessary, but almost where you want to be right now if you're the Bucs. It's obviously an 0-2 situation. Don't want to lose this one with the seeding. Want a shot at being able to take away the best possible seed heading in the playoffs here. So we're going to have to see them turn it around and turn it around quick here, Alan.
So not to completely just go different direction, but after all that SAT wording, had to look up what the word of the day was today. You ready for the word of the day, Austin?
What's the word of the day?
The word of the day is funambulism, which means...
What's that mean?
It means that you're showing features of a show of mental agility. So you're showing you can showcase your funambulism based on the decisions you're making on the map.
Okay.
How about
gonna get that one in there in the cast sometime?
Let's see who can most seamlessly use the word funambulism in this map 3. We'll find out. Quick hit here for Florida State. 4-man feed over towards the B site, and they've actually stepped right past Indivent, but this is kind of a problem. Indivent's got to have to pop his head up here for a moment because you've lost your defenders around the back, and it's Florida State with 3 and early pressure on B.
Well, you almost never see this, and it's not the fact that you never see teams go to B. You never see them cleanly win the battle to B off the bat like this. So a little bit of retake needs to come in. Grime and Marskis do an excellent job of that as they'll actually single-handedly clear off the zone, and you still got pressured by A. One more battle inside of circle. Marskis says no problem. 3 in a row, and that is incredible. Incredible recovery. They don't even lose a tick, and they have the map control to work with.
And you might be able to get streaks too. Like, how has this happened? Talk about the most untraditional way to start off a defense. But if it works, it works. Grime still controlling concrete stairs provides a problem here for the Seminoles, needing to get some mid-map control back before they could realistically get a good look at A. And it looks like K-Cell's hitting a route to do just that, but he knows that there's going to be a player nearby, and it's Grime. 4 in a row for himself. So between him and Marskis, all of a sudden the defense, which looked like it was about to crumble in the first 10 seconds, now you only have to kill off another 20, and you've won your open defense.
Well, they've put it back together quite quickly. Still have to try to do a bit of defense, rather defending around the point. Marskis able to find the snap up top for the low ground. Teammates now just need to finish off Exile. They do come up with 1, but the numbers will swing the way of Florida State. One last attempt could come through, and by the looks of it on the minimap, looks like they're going to give this one last good go to see if they can try to break it. Mad Truth gets a read up top. Indivent needs to do something and something quick, but he's not ready for the player in from behind, and that will be 2 ticks of progress. 1 more tick, and they'll be good for the extra minute.
I was just about to sit here and say, though, if you're Barry, you kind of have to be mentally okay with giving up this tick of progress if it means still holding on to good locations. You only have to kill off 12 more Seminoles before you win your defense. As much as you would love to obviously take a tick advantage by stopping this A zone from getting captured, you cannot allow it to turn into a very convincing Florida State feed. And the 60 seconds have been added. However, you do have number 5 in Grime locking down the middle of the map, so this isn't one-dimensional for Barry. You've got some options to work with here, but Florida State executing on some patience, know that they just need to make sure they can out-trade before they even look at this B zone first.
Yeah, have to out-trade and also have to try to get yourself positioned inside of circle, which is currently being held quite tightly right now here for the side of the Barry Bucs. So are they going to be able to break through? Maybe the call will be made to push all the way into the back here, see if they can get green control, but Indivent is also here to be able to watch that, and he finds that first one, almost gets the second. Brave Cannon finds that critical trade to try to keep the play alive, but you're using so much of your time, and you're so split on the map here, you're not even close to the zone, and you only have a good 30 seconds left to 5 lives.
Yeah, the problem is there's really no win condition at the moment for Florida State. You've got to hit this double setup towards ring. You also need Brave Cannon to also find success on the flank, which I mentioned as he falls. So it definitely looks convincing for Barry to put away this defensive round. It started a bit treacherous, I think is the best way of putting it. As Exile will drop, so will the hopes of the Seminoles ever finding progress at B. But, I mean, that's a difficult defense to expect that outcome, where you almost won it without giving away the first even tick of progress at A, let alone the zone in full. So good recovery from Barry leads to at least an opening favor, which is the first time we could say that really in all three of the maps we've had so far.
Absolutely. It is one of the first times we could say it. And a lot of credit there, over to, I believe it was Grimes and Marskis that just flew at that B zone, were able to play retake. And they had won what was essentially a 2v4 on that side of the map with a couple of the players kind of watching over the players in the zone by circles. So the fact that they win those and then push out on top of it, get that circle control right back after winning the battles on the point is truly spectacular. But can they now do something like that into the offensive round? As Grimes is going to be waiting patiently, finds that first one, waiting for the second, knows one more is up top, one more on his tail, and Grimes just turns and burns. Takes down CCL. His teammates deal with everyone at the top of the boat, and a strong start comes through at the start of A as they already got that first tick locked in.
And you've got a player forward, so Marskis, even though he does drop, he creates some separation between the defense and the A zone. The problem about this is Brave Cannon is able to get to the high ground. Grime on 1 HP, guns him, and gets away to keep his life. Second tick of progress, though, was not locked in. 1v1 with Mad Truth from the low ground. Didn't expect his positioning, and that will lead to near full depletion of this second tick of progress at A. But Barry not being spawn trapped, an opportunity with numbers to get here quickly. And it's not even just towards A, by the way. They've got an opening from the top middle of the map. They could actually make progress on 2 zones at once.
Yeah.
How about the spawn for Gyro? He's in a position to follow up. But Florida State have read this largely and do have defenders in place to try to make sure that it's only just one player who can make a play towards B and not multiple.
Oh, it's one player, and, well, he's already on the zone here, so you're going to have all your players rotating off the last point. Gyro could get some decent work done. Player's going to come in from behind and will find the kill. So that first tick luckily does not come through, but you have to start to stabilize a little bit here across the map, and you're still pinned to the back of your spawn. That battle off screen there from Mad Truth, quite crucial. Be able to make sure you hold on to the defensive position. So now everything starting from step one again, and Mad Truth just beaming across the map as he finds a second.
Even that gunfight from the third-person perspective was an impressive one for Exile up to the high ground of the ring. So now you got mid-map control. You've got boat control. You've got, I mean, what else do you want?
Everything. Got everything out.
It's pretty much the supermarket sweepstakes right now. Just take a full arm across an aisle and just put it all in the cart because Florida State is reaping the reward. You ever seen that game show, Supermarket Sweepstakes?
I don't think I have, but I think I know the reference you're
oldie.
referring to. It's an oldie, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's an oldie. It's like a 1980s game show. So
Oh, definitely not.
I don't blame you for not seeing it, but that's what Florida State's doing right now. They're replicating the new 2020 version of it.
All right, I believe you. And, they're doing a good job of it, apparently, too. Brave Cannon does end up dropping here, so still an opportunity to try to make some kind of offensive pressure happen, but when KCL is winning battles like these, you're not going to make it too far onto the point. Now down to about 40 seconds, 9 lives, and Matthew says, hey, how about a flank? 5 in a row here for him. Will he be able to find number 6? Snaps onto Grime, but Grime won't lose that battle. Tries to keep this entire play alive here, and there is still time to work with. He's got one more player up top, but can't win the battle, and, well, now you're losing numbers, and Gyro would have to make a miracle play happen here from the front.
I will say Barry gave themselves a really good look, trying to set up a pinch around the back with Marskis, but the individual gun skill of Florida State once again showcases itself. Individuals winning gunfights to make sure that pinch was unsuccessful. So now the last attempt on the last 3 lives. Again, almost an opportunity to touch. But as Gyro falls, so will the hopes of Barry doing much at the B zone. So everything level through the first 2 rounds when it comes to tick progression. And I'm going to be curious to see if the Seminoles try to once again make a full format hit over towards B. Or even if they don't, I'm curious to see if Barry's going to adjust their defense here off the break as well.
That's always like the interesting strategies that kind of, formulate throughout a control where it's like, hey, listen, these guys just full stack B. There's no way they're going to just do that again, right? Like they just did that to throw us off. But like it's those little conversations that you're having with your teammates on whether or not we should send an extra member to circle to contest it off the rip. And, well, by the looks of things, a lot of nades and stunts coming over A, and they're going to make the call again to play immediately for circle control. So a lot of pressure here on Innovid to try to come up with one. He is able to at least get a kill, but Brave Cannon soaring through will get a touch on B.
This is interesting. Barry's trying to follow up off of this by retaking ring control. They have no defenders that can re-wrap back around to B. And this is very one-dimensional, especially considering that Florida State are not fully committed to the B zone. They've got 2 members on, sure, but look at the players that are still watching the cuts and mid-map. This is a perfect setup for the Seminoles, and Barry does not have an opportunity to retake this except for from the front. So you've got a full flood to get here. Grime and Marski's the last 2 that could potentially contest. Exile's just keeping his head down, hoping for connections through the landing vehicle, but Barry still work on it the last possible second. Can they deplete? Sure seems like it, as the Seminoles were already committed to rotating to A.
Wow, I mean, what a crazy kill coming through there for Marskis. Just gets there in the nick of time, saves that final tick. They're able to fully deplete it, and while this happens, you can see it, Innovant as well as Gyro, they've been here trying to defend the A zone, and they're doing a pretty darn good job of it. Grime there turns on the Brave Cannon, and the defensive side here holding out right now against Florida State. You have to try and find these kills right now if you're Exile. He does find that first one, but up top again, Gyro just piecing them. He's just taking them all. How about a third? Gyro finds 3 in a row. He's looking for number 4, and he finds it. He is on a tear.
How does Barry keep doing this, Austin?
I don't know.
Like, what in the world? Talk about just showcasing some dexterity on your defense here. I mean, that's nearly 2 rounds in a row that you've lost the B zone, or it looked like you were. And now you're down to another 20 seconds with a life lead, and Florida State's going to give up on A. They're trying to get the extra 60 seconds by going to B. And Marski's already aware of this play. So is Indivin on the pinch. Player will try to touch, but that gets denied. And Barry, as resilient as ever, have just locked another defense, but this time it's by way of, oh wait, hold on. Someone will touch here over towards the A zone. Defense needs to come to life, and they do. Florida State not quite able to hang on, but talk about a weird way to confirm only 2 ticks of progress being given up for Barry's defense.
Yeah, only 2 ticks of progress, and that 3rd tick was like a sliver. Like, if you're on the defending side and you hop on that zone for like half a second, I'm pretty sure that full tick goes through and they get that extra minute. Like, it was so damn close. And you look at, once again, Marski's, the player in the first round that stops that offensive push happen. He does it again in the last round, so a lot of clutch plays coming in. Now a chance to be able to solidify that defensive round here. If you're able to fully capture this A zone, you will get it.
Wow. Opening exchange on this round for Barry. Keeping the hot hand right now. Will allow them... Let's say it should be a first tick of progress, but looking for kills before progress at the moment is this Barry Buccaneers squad. And it's not really working out all that well for them. Florida State an opportunity to retake. But they're once again going to be tested on multiple fronts, as Marski's hitting a long route over to B has gotten on to delay a little bit of time. So it will test this Florida State defense a touch more. And finally, as Grime comes off spawn for a double, that will be the first locked-in tick of progress for Barry on the A zone.
Oh, the confidence difference, it really looks like it's showing right now with that kill right there from Grime. That could have just solidified it. That final tick coming in. One last defensive push to try to break in, and it's only 1 kill that comes through for Mad Truth. The trades are there. Gyro there for another trade as well. 2 minutes to work with, working over to B. They don't have a full tick of progress, but you have no defensive setup right now. Gyro might be able to find a couple more as they try to cross, but he is tagging them up as they move.
Yeah, for real. Wow. All right. A lot of time on the clock here for Barry to use. You have to set something up here, though. And it looks like they're going to try to trust that Gyro's gotten around the back. And he misses an opportunity on the Brave Cannon. Now he's kind of caught between 2 different Seminoles and will not be able to even exchange his life for a single kill. So that position's now relinquished. And Barry largely setting up some pressure from the front. The kills are good. Gyro off the respawn, there for another elimination at range. That's going to allow the Bucs to get in. The only contested is Mad Truth off the cross. That's not going to be good enough. Here comes the first tick of progress, the double stack already occurring.
Oh, they have multiple numbers on the zone. They have players that are still locking down circle, and Marski's wins that battle on the Mad Truth, so there's no flank that can come in. This retake has to come through the front. 2 ticks of progress is secured. Innovant in the back is still finding kills. 2 in a row here for him. KCL needs to deliver, and he comes up with 2, and Grime gets 1 back, but at least you stop the progress. Now you're down to 7 lives, and Brave Cannon, you feel like he's got to get some work done around circle.
How big is that kill from Exile at long range onto Gyro? That will kill off a lot of time here. Indivent cannot challenge the SMG of Brave Cannon. Comes through the doorway! What in the world is that from Brave Cannon? Immediate response and reaction. Now down to 35 seconds on the clock, but only 5 lives remaining. And Barry's starting to hit from multiple points at the same time. Exile still playing deep on the beachfront. Completely caught up creek without a paddle. And it's all down to Brave Cannon off the respawn. 1v10, it's not to happen. And Barry, after what looked to be 2 defenses that would have been struggling to get off the block, somehow turns into a 3-1 win on the control overall.
I honestly am a little bit shook with the way that this one plays out for us, because it's looking like Florida State, oh, they're just going to do what they've been doing the last couple of maps. They just come out here, they start frying, they start attacking very aggressively, they get on the zone. Surely they're going to capture this B zone right away, and then these just miracle moments, these clutch moments that come through here for the Bucs is really the difference maker when you look at the end of that game, because there were multiple opportunities where they could have quite literally gotten multiple ticks on B or secured the zone in full. And both times I feel like you have to come back to Marskies as being a part of both of those plays, stopping that final tick from coming in, making sure they're able to deplete it, get map control, push back it onto the map, and then even create a bit of a spawn trap. And both times it happened, Florida State, like once they lost their first initial play, all of a sudden regaining map control for them was a massive struggle point. And you got to see it through so many of those rounds there, Alan, where it played a massive factor.
Unbelievable, really. I use that term literally by definition. I cannot believe that is how Barry secures 2 defenses. Literally cannot do it. Got ourselves a series maybe all of a sudden, Austin. Because, I mean, the proactive gameplay out of Florida State still existing, I would say, just based on the kind of stylistic choices that Florida State was trying to make. But it's just, I won't even use the word variety or creativity. It was just extreme dexterity out of the Barry Bucs to come back into moments that looked pretty much unwinnable. And, you know, you also get 32 and 19 from Grime, who has his first big pop-off map of this series. That helps. 26 of those kills untraded. And I don't know, maybe something to be said about Exile only going 14 and 23. He's kind of been the linchpin for a lot of this kind of initiative success that we've seen out of the Seminoles. So maybe just not quite enough that they needed to get into those plays to secure ticks or zones in full in those offensive rounds.
And it did seem like the Barry Bucs were also like slowing the game down a little bit this time around. I know it's, you know, control compared to hardpoint, but that was definitely something that we weren't seeing in the very first map, where it was a really back and forth affair through that first rotation. It was only 4 points separating the two. But when we really saw that lead start to come through for Florida State, it's because they had the initial setup. They were starting to catch the Barry Bucs, you know, on sprint. They were no longer being able to break the way that they were in the first time. So I feel like a huge part of this was Grime kind of just posting up a little bit more, being able to really get into his groove and take over and battle out against those ARs, which is something that is necessary to do at times. So they're able to find the map number 3 win, 3-1 victory, and now we look at the rest of the map set here, Alan. We will get to see some Tuskens, starting off with that Tusken hardpoint here in map 4.
And this venue better provide some instant success into what Barry wants to set up as their game plan, because the problem, as good as that Gavudu control was, you are still responding and reacting, and you're not going to get away with that, not just possibly here, but as we look to playoffs, by the way, which is still kind of the biggest macro conversation here, is I feel the play style that Florida State has brought to the table here today will lead to an opportunity to battle against your top perennial 4 teams that we're kind of all thinking of. Your Northwoods, your Bay States, your Penn States, your Concords, your Ottawas. Maybe not Concord, but Ottawa. You have to be able to be proactive against teams like that. You cannot beat squads that are better than you in that instance off of reacting to them. So in this immediate moment, and the referenceability here is Barry's got to come out and really set the tempo and the tone early. You cannot allow Florida State to keep getting away with the we got one convincing gunfight 40 seconds in or 20 seconds in with 40 to play, and we're already rotating. You cannot allow that to happen for free. You have to challenge not just the scrap time in those instances, but you also need to start establishing your own setups on these hard points and not being forced to break every single time.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I do think that the Bucs will probably have an easier time on a map like a Tuscan compared to a Berlin, where
Okay.
it's a little bit more forgiving in the sense where it's like, okay, if you do miss a rotation, you don't win those battles on initial, at least you're right there 5-10 seconds later to set up that next hit, where it's like Berlin, all of a sudden it's a little bit more coordination, you're spawning a little further
Yeah.
away, so it's not as easy to kind of hit one after the other, where Tuscan kind of has that leeway to be able to kind of enable the subs without the
Sure,
ARs
okay.
having to clear out the pressure. So I do think those are kind of the big factors coming in towards this one, at least for them, and that could be where they get that edge. But overall, I do think I agree with a lot of the points that you did hit, where they do need to make sure that they're just being proactive in the sense that they're not being out-rotated every single hill, where they're not obligated to break, because we know what tends to happen on those Tuscans. You're just always kind of behind on the play, and you're never really building up a lead for yourself here. But at the same time, you're probably coming off a little bit of confidence, right? You're feeling pretty good after that last map. You just won an offensive round to close out the Gavoo 2-3-1. You didn't even need the map 5, let alone securing the defense for it. So the vibes gotta be high, they gotta be good. And can they get us to a map number 5? Well, there's an opportunity here for it, but they're gonna have to come out here. All 4 players, Alan, need to come out here and play like they just did there on the Gavoo 2.
Yep. I like it. Couldn't set up the map, I think, any better. Not to pat ourselves on the back, but the trends and the patterns have been established. That much is for sure.
Surely.
So do you have the ability, in the middle of a very tight series, pride and a playoff seeding spot on the line, to execute on those adjustments? That'll be Florida State spawning on the left side, the quote-unquote favored side. And Barry is actually taking a 3-man approach through mid here. Nades will also kind of tag up K-Cell. Good follow-up, but Marski's not actually expecting it. Will just allow the Seminoles to walk into the hard point for free, and they've got to read on where the flank is coming from. Good start for the Seminoles.
Yep, good start. Right back on the time they'll go. Next hit coming through for the Barry Bucs, coming by way of a long. We'll see if they can defend this, as there's a couple players dropping, and yet you've lost a lot of your AR presence here. And this is going to hurt because it puts you in an awkward timing where you feel like you got to try to give this one last push through. And Grimes going to be holding that line here, 3-0, but in from behind, Matt Truth trying to jump off the top ropes for a second. Brave Cannon gets there for his trade, and that remaining scrap time will be secured as we now look at P2.
You have slowed things down just a touch, though, especially with that elimination onto Brave Cannon. Now, all of a sudden, you do have the ability to lock down spawns for 2, and hopefully open up the hard point to your name, but they, once again, do not have the numbers to deal with Exile. Gyro's still sitting in church for some reason. He didn't follow up on that play really whatsoever, and what looked to be at least a concession of scrap in favor of initial here on the second has now been tested in the first 15 seconds, but as the help starts to flood through the bottom side of the map, it will be Barry who now have numbers to control the space around the hill.
Yeah, a lot of zoning here for Barry. Mad Truth trying to save the play. Does find 2 up close and personal, but you can feel the need to try to hold on to your life right now, making sure there's no early rotations happening for the side of the Barry Bucs. Big battle right here, and that will be another win here for the Barry Bucs. And now you get to start to run forward, apply some pressure, start to fly out here, as all that time is going to be secured. And Innovant has a big battle to try to work through in the back here, and you might have actually just slipped through.
Well, he's got to read on Brave Cannon, waiting for number 5 and Grime to come assist, but the problem is Mad Truth is behind this play as well. Oh, how incognito is that from Indivant? Getting his 4th elimination. 3rd hardpoint will open up. Obviously, information that players inside of Fountain are already contesting time, and the spawns are just all over the place right now for Barry. Indivant has it, holds his life for as long as humanly possible. And he does very well, changes the corner, gets the 6. Help is now here.
Wow.
And the kills kind of sporadically coming from behind will lead to a convincing feed for Barry.
Indivant's still back here. He's still back here, putting in the work, and the glide just came through. Gyro comes out with a couple more, and everything just falls to pieces there for Florida State University, as that's like, what, a good 6-7 consecutive kills in a row. Need to try and find a response, and it's likely not going to come on this hill as Marski's puts another one down in the middle of the map. Rotation now to Church. Will pursue. K-Cell needs to hold through the front. He'll do a good job of it. Tags up the second pretty heavily. But so much momentum now playing in your favor as multiple players hitting routes around the map right now for the Bucs.
Yeah, and the thing about this, even though the Bucs are going to give away initial time, you're at least making sure that Florida State's being challenged on this initial setup, so they don't have the luxury of zoning, which means for the most part, you're concealed on this next hit attempt. The problem about this is Barry's Mo looking towards spawns, and that's the only place where Florida State was comfortably watching lanes. So where they were softest and weakest on this setup over through Church was never truly tested. And with 30 seconds to play, now all of a sudden the rubber's got to meet the road because you've got to get in. You've got to challenge some of this time. Otherwise, Florida State will just very quickly retake a lead.
Yeah, very comfortable here for as far as FSU needing to find a response. They find it. Mad Truth, 3 in a row here for him. Might need to win one more battle in the back, and no problem. He'll do it. 4 in a row. Spawns are not looking good now for the Bucs as they're going to have to wrap all the way back here through P2. They will have numbers in full, but the early setup again here for FSU.
And the clearance from that route for Mad Truth means that the players inside of 5 know this hit is all coming from the front, and yeah, Exile just spams down the wall. What a predictive read that is from Florida State. Clearing space, forcing you only one option, and the kills come through just as convincing as you would expect. Unbelievable zone of control here from Florida State. First 20 seconds are good, and with that convincing kill feed, give him 30, because there's no way Barry's going to hit here before maybe 20 seconds left in the hill.
Yeah, and you're seeing this. Look at hit after hit right now is being shut down through the middle of the map. Everyone is just losing their individual gun battles, but they're also separated on what they're trying to do at the exact same time. They're at the front of the point, but who's pinching? No one, because they've been locking down that mid alley for the last 30 seconds. So this has basically been 2 hills that have been in full control here for FSU Esports, regaining that lead, and Brave Cannon just starting to go a little bit rogue across the map. Early setup is good for Exile once again here at the new point. Won't have a lot of reinforcements, but already applying some early pressure.
You don't need the reinforcements. You've got glide bombs if you want to use it to open up this hard point. You can rotate late if you want, and Mad Truth is going to call it in. So much information gained. Mid-map now, all in your control. Marsky's on the point is done. However, do you get a full read on where Barry's spawning? Based on Brave Cannon's nades, you would assume no. And how about the counter coming out of the glide bomb from Indivent? That's going to put things into a bit of a mix. But the problem about this is it took too long for you to finish off CCL in the front. So now Florida State just walk back into the hard point, and they know where you're trying to break from.
Can they brute force through the back? Middle map control is still good for Florida State. Mad Truth does turn to help from the front. Does give you a window to try to break through. Gyro has to do it all by himself. No one else alongside him. The scrap time likely will be secured, and this is looking a lot like the Berlin here, Alan, where the second rotation just fully in control already at the start of it, and now you're down almost 100 points in full, where you absolutely need to have a stronghold here of about 45 seconds on P2.
Well, you need the lockdown here, and you need to win the rotation to new. I think that's probably a must-have at the moment if you're Barry. And at least for now, the lockdown of the hill looks pretty solid. If Marskis can get a good timing on this pinch around the back, you'll keep your spawns safe, and now you can turn all of your attention to the front because there's no way Florida State's going to try to re-hit and re-flip these spawns. And it looks like that has been established. Problem about this is Barry just has no high ground control. Indivent needs to go off right here. Does actually see the backpack of Brave Cannon, so he gets the clearance needed, and we've got ourselves a game again here, Austin. The last 30 seconds will put Florida State into a bit of a spawn flip situation, and they actually use it pretty darn successfully for a full wipe, but they miss Q on Grime, and he's at least able to finesse a little bit of extra time off this hill.
Yeah, Florida State, I think they make the right call here, making sure they dedicate the majority of their numbers into securing this time, because look at where this puts them. It keeps them at that kind of 100-point lead area. Now they can continue to play for scrap time, and any time is huge. And as you hit on it off screen, Grime does slow down a lot of what's going to take place here for Florida State. But now you have the chance to regroup, get together, try and find these picks. That first one going to come through. Mad Truth just seeing people with just a little bit of vision through the rails. Mad Truth on 5 in a row, looking for what could be a glide. One more will come through, and he'll get it. He needs to look to his right. Doesn't look the right way, so won't be able to capitalize on another streak. And that does mean that the setup is still looking at least okay in the back, but everyone coming off that hot spawn for Florida, they can contest it, and they're right back in the time.
Yeah, Barry didn't recognize that they didn't have spawns here because of the convincing kills that came through just before the challenger on the back from Florida State kind of popped its head, but once again, Grime off of spawn, hits a double, one more through fire stairs. It's KSL who bests him once again, but for 15 seconds of scrap time, it's tough. You don't want to give it away, but at the same moment, you also have to win this rotation if you're Barry. What looked to be pretty much exactly what the doctor ordered with a P2 lockdown and a P3 setup. Florida State just keeps finding a way to finesse their way into these hills and contest in moments that you don't even have the light of day to do. KCL in the back putting pressure on the spawns for Barry, even though he's picked up. The hard point time is neutral. And if you're a Florida State fan, that still equates to good news, largely speaking.
It definitely does. It feels like, you know, the Bucs just haven't really been able to soak up a lot of this time, and it's got to change. If you're going to send this to a map number 5, it changes here. Gyro here, trying to battle out, but Brave Cannon will be able to clean up 2. And that means that Florida State back in control of the Churchill. Indivin trying to see if he might be able to create some chaos. Looking for that second. Marskis is there for the second challenge to the front. KCL finds 2. XL gets the 3rd. And FSU, they just keep winning out on these little battles, especially around the scrap time.
And the thing about it is, with this significant of a leader's advantage, you could keep hitting scrap time. It gets you that much closer to 250. You're still up 90 points. So even if you don't get a good look at a break attempt initially here,
whoa,
holy, Mad Truth just brute forces his way into a 1v4 and takes 2 with him. So I was going to say, you can just play for rotation to P1 if you want to, but with that convincing feed and the team need to come out, an opportunity for Florida State just to win the game here. Trades coming back and forth, but it's not enough. Gyro needs the chow, and he does. Good double. Keeps Barry in the game for now.
He is trying to keep them in it. A couple of key kills, you know, coming in, but, you know, can they actually clear out the hard point, get some control inside of the hard point? That's been a hard no these last couple of hills. One last push there for Grime, wins it on the individual battle. And Brave Cannon, he's got the luxury. Keep putting pressure on the scrap time here, saying, listen, there's still multiple members, guys. We can set up a rotation. And now you're going to have to make your way across the map as Mad Truth wins a battle he shouldn't. And you're going to be so delayed, no setup. Nobody is even able to make it past the halfway point.
Like the route, though, from Grime. Try to pinch, open up some space around the back, but the problem about it is you're caught on the tack sprint. And Florida State will be in P1 with numbers initially. Now the desperate nades raining from above. Grime trying to make his way forward, and no, Mad Truth still just picking up doubles. Another 6 in a row for him. There's kill number 40, by the way. 40 and 17 with almost a minute and a half in the hard point. And there's just no stopping Mad Truth. Florida State will win the Sunshine State. Whew. Florida the Sunshine State?
You tell me.
Or is that California? I don't remember.
Is it both? Why not both, right? Can they both be the Sunshine State? Is that a thing?
Maybe. I don't remember. They are the Sunshine State. I'm smarter than I look.
All right, there you go. I never doubted you. I never doubted you, Alan.
Thanks, brother.
I might have.
I doubted myself, so I don't blame you for that.
But how about the series? How about hard points? Florida State University, I mean, a different beast on the second rotations. That's what I'll say. I don't know what the comms look like, but I'd be really curious to hear, because it almost felt like both hard points that we saw, there was massive adjustments with the way that they went into those second rotations, and you got to see it happen multiple times where they're chaining hills together. They just have like a really good stretch of points where they build up, you know, 70, 80 point lead, and all of a sudden you come and you bring out that leader's advantage where we can just keep hitting the scrap time. They have to rotate, guys. They have to be the proactive ones and have to clutch up. And when you force a team to do that, you know, consistently on a map like Tuscan Hardpoint, I mean, like it's almost never going to happen every single hill, and we got to see that there. So very clean across the board, and also just incredible stuff coming in here from multiple members as well. Just step it up when they had to, Alan. We'll take a look at the stats here again. What was it, 41? Mad Truth and hard points, not being traded, damage, hill time. He does it all, man. Does it all.
So that's like back-to-back triple doubles in
triple
the hard
doubles
point for Mad Truth, yeah.
Back-to-back. No big deal. No big deal.
Casual. Super casual. 32 of the 41 non-traded. Casual.
Disgusting.
He had a 10 spree, and he finished on an 8, and I think he had another 5. So, I mean,
yeah,
there's half of your kills there just on 3 different streaks. I mean,
no.
I guess that's pretty good.
That's not too bad, is it, right? Like, 17 deaths on a map like Tuscan, like you're almost always being traded, but you know, and it's not even like he's just always like taking routes. Like he is like taking these battles like brute force to the point. Sometimes, you know, being the entry player when he's swapping off to the sub at times. So incredible stuff to say the least here. And while he's putting up the hill time, everyone being involved in the hill. But what a map, what a series. And it's a crucial one. We already highlighted the fact that, you know, this is for seeding, making sure you're in the best possible position. And while FSU Esports, they do exactly that, you know, going in towards the postseason here.
Yeah, that locks you into third from this region overall. technically a tie with Concord, but it's the Mountain Lions that hold the head-to-head, so they'll hold that tiebreaker and the second seed. Penn State goes untouched, largely, through this Southeastern Division. 10-0 against top-cut teams through the regular season. Very impressive. Barry just behind that, though, of course, they'll be sitting in the fourth position overall, just ahead of the two teams that we've got coming up next, oddly enough. High Point and Shenandoah University. A battle of the Appalachians, if you want to call it that. That'll be next on our list. Both teams in the top 25 as well. First time we've seen Shenandoah really get there. I think maybe they were in for a week during the initial first stage of the season. But High Point, who has been looking really good this year as well, has been kind of climbing the ranks since they've been put into the top cut. So exciting matchup to come here as well, Austin.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one with two teams, trying to prove themselves, breaking into top 25s. Always near the end of the season, I always find it really fun to see what teams are kind of developing through the course of the entire season, because sometimes you don't put it together right away with a new squad, but over time, you slowly put in that work, you try to get yourself to a point where you're going to have a good seed coming into playoffs. And I feel like that, sums up exactly both of these squads. So we really do have a great one to end the night with, end the season with as well.
Yeah, that's actually facts. Last streamed match of the regular season to come. High Point, Shenandoah University. That's what we've got up next. We'll set it up, send things to a break, come right back for the third and final match here on our Tuesday. Don't go too far.